Hello and welcome to the Fleet News Group podcast. My name is Mark Sibbald. This is a podcast where we dive into the stories shaping the future of fleet. Today we've got something special. We're joined by Thom Drew, Country Director, Motors for Australia and New Zealand at Tesla. Tom's journey with Tesla started back in 2014 as a delivery operations specialist, and he's risen through the ranks to now lead the business across our region. With the updated Model Y just arriving in Australia, we'll be talking about what's new, what's next, and why Tesla is becoming a serious consideration for fleet buyers and novated lease customers. It's not every day we get direct access to one of Tesla's senior executives, so we're excited to hear this take on EV adoption, battery tech, charging infrastructure, and what's coming down the road for fleets. So, Thom, welcome, and thank you for making the time.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So let's start with the Model Y. I'm based in Sydney, and I was driving down to Wollongong over the last weekend where the cars get offloaded off the ships, and I couldn't help but notice truckloads of Model Ys sort of coming up the freeway. Can you tell us about the new Model Y? What's better, what's new, and why fleet managers should be paying attention to this updated model?
Sure thing. Look, it's great that you saw those trucks. We had a massive vessel arrive of one of several that's coming through with new Model Y, and also some Model 3s on board. But something like 3,500 came on that first vessel. So certainly keeping our delivery centres very, very busy at the moment, which is great to see. But look, as far as new Model Y, we really can't think of a more fit for purpose EV SUV on the market. And as I mentioned, we're seeing really strong demand, particularly within the mobility sector, rideshare, subscription, and of course, novated lease. As far as the car goes, look, outside of the vehicle, we've got the styling updates, which are more geared towards our cyber design language. You're taking some hints from Cybertruck. And then with inside the vehicle, we've got an all-new cabin, and that pairs really nicely with some of the ride quality enhancements, reduced noise, and really just making it a more comfortable place to be. Safety, connectivity, storage, of course, all remain really important to us and obviously to fleet drivers, particularly where we get seeing drivers that spend a lot of time on the road. There are also some great quality of life features that have been further enhanced with our voice activation, really taking it to the next level and allowing a vast majority of features to be controlled via voice, taking that distraction away and allowing our drivers to remain attentive while on the road.
Yeah, wow. It does sound like a lot. And, the design language from the outside, I've seen it in the flesh at some of the motor shows. It certainly does look really nice. So, that's great to see. Just generally on EV sales, it's been a big 12 months for EVs. How has Tesla performed in terms of new car sales in Australia? And, are you seeing interest from one segment, such as business or novated lease buyers? Where's the market been heading over the last, or where's been the interest over the last 12 months?
Yeah, look, we don't take it for granted by any means, but we've remained the number one EV brand in the country. There's definitely some strong challenges out there, which keeps us on our toes, and we want to make sure we continue to provide the service and the quality of product that keeps us at that top level. But as far as where the interest is coming from, there's no hiding from the fact that novated leasing has been an absolute hero segment for us. These incentives have been, this paired with some of the incentives we've put into place, have really made it a no-brainer to move towards our vehicles. We do expect to see this continue to sell really strong through novated leasing, particularly with the retention of the government, as you mentioned earlier. Paired with this, we're trying to focus more on how we can support those who might not have access to some of the traditional novated lease programs. And late last year, we introduced our own Lease My Tesla product powered by Driver, and really allowed us to kind of pull back the curtain a little, provide an extra level of transparency for those who perhaps didn't quite understand the benefits of novated lease previously, and help get some of those customers that are not attached to one of the large players into a really compelling product. Again, just pushing that affordability piece as broadly as we possibly can. So far, it's going really well. We did have a bit of a soft launch with it, but throughout this year, we continue to focus on that product and really want to see that ramp even further. As far as mobility goes, we're seeing great things within this segment, particularly with rideshare and subscription, and consumers are really seeming to favour the product for all of the reasons I previously stated. overall, the year was relatively flat. Obviously, we have a bit of a gap with new Model Y coming out. We started taking orders back in January, and deliveries only started in the last 2 weeks. So definitely looking at some of the reports on our figures recently, there have been some down months, but we're not too fussed around that. Obviously, we took our orders early in the year. We're starting to deliver, and we're really looking more long-term as far as our demand and supply goes with the way we're actually sourcing our vehicles from the factory. Most notably, we get a huge bunch, as I mentioned, around 3,500 on that vessel. We had a huge bunch of vehicles that kind of come through mid-quarter from the factory, and then we go really hard at the end of quarter to get those all out. So definitely in that wave at the moment. We then also saw the ANCAP ratings come out for new Model 3, which is not yet rated for new Model Y, but we're expecting to see that come through later in the year, which will help bolster the later half.
Yeah, that new car sales, there was some industry commentators that didn't quite get how a model changeover works. It happens with every manufacturer, and obviously sometimes it works perfectly, other times there's a gap. But
I certainly think with us, it's probably more obvious given that we have such a limited lineup compared to many of our competitors.
Yeah, okay. So just talking about novated leasing, I guess for a lot of employees looking at that, this might be their first novated lease or their first EV. What kind of experience can they expect when they go with a Tesla? Because for some people, it's still a new brand for a lot of people. So things like running cost and the charging experience. What should they expect?
Yeah, look, it is interesting to hear that perception still remains of a new brand. We're 15 years now in Australia. So for us, we're old hat at this, but I would definitely appreciate that there's a whole market segment that's still unfamiliar with our brand and our product. So certainly something we'll be focusing on this year in being more outward with our education around our brand, the offering, and then obviously what it means to own an EV. What we're hearing though on the ground is, by the novated leasing companies, is that our products remain really the first choice. Comes down to the obvious things that our brand are known for, which is our supercharging network, which is completely unrivaled by any other brand. That with the low cost of ownership, the tax benefits of GST and FBT obviously make it a real winner. What we found with the FBT changes is that obviously prior to the exemption that's in place, the whole program really incentivized high running costs and tried to find a more affordable piece there, whereas EVs with their natural low running costs didn't reap the full benefit. We know there's been some revisions to the legislation for things like electricity and hardware with some additional concessions that we'll continue to push for, which will actually help get more of an even playing field there and drive down the total cost of ownership even further.
Yeah, fantastic. Like the charging network, you mentioned it's unrivaled. I see it everywhere, but I'm looking for it. How big is it, and is it still growing? I noticed some announcements this year with some new sites working with the New South Wales government, I think.
Oh, absolutely. The New South Wales government have been incredibly supportive and certainly allowed us to branch out into parts of the state where we may not have found a business case at this point. So it's really opened up regional travel for a lot of people, which is fantastic. But as far as the network growth goes, look, I actually lose track at times of just how many locations and how many charging plugs we have, but we're well over 600. It might be even closer to 700 plugs at the moment, at around 115 or so locations. But even this year to date, I think we've opened around 7 sites. There may be pending some there that are waiting on energization, but there's certainly a lot in the works, and we'll continue to expand. We've been looking in our pipeline now for the next 24 months or so, looking at areas that we want to expand into, which we I think will really help like our sales, going into areas where we think our customers travel to most frequently. But then on the flip side, our charging team has a lot of analytical tools that they utilize to look at demand and where we think there's going to be spikes, particularly at those times of year where there's bound to be wait times, so long weekends and holidays and so on, and making sure that we have enough capacity in the pipeline to mitigate that type of waiting. So what you'll have seen is a lot of the sites that we've opened recently have been predominantly with our new V4 superchargers, which are open to all EVs as well. And one of the benefits of those superchargers is they have the longer cable, which makes using our sites much easier versus our kind of bespoke Tesla designs that we had previously, which may be a little bit challenging for third-party usage. But with those sites, they are a much higher capacity, up to 300 kilowatts of output, But one of the key things is not just capacity, it's also our reliability. So something really sets us apart from any of the other networks is our uptime. Last year, our average uptime was 99.5% across our network in Australia, which is exactly what our customers need, right? You're not going to pull up to a petrol station and assume that, and find that the pumps aren't working, right? You pull up, you expect you're going to be able to fill up. And that's exactly the experience that we need our customers to have. So there's a hell of a lot of work that goes on from our field service team that are actively monitoring our network. And things do break, but when they do, it's all about us having the parts on hand and being able to go out to those sites and get them back online within days rather than weeks and months that you do tend to see with other manufacturers.
Yeah, I know we're talking a lot about Tesla in this interview, but I think you skipped over one of the really cool points: is those new chargers. They're open to any EV, so that's a bit of a game changer for the whole industry, isn't it? Being accessed for any brand.
Yeah, absolutely, and it goes back to our original mission. Really wanting to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. That means our network isn't just for our cars. We want to see more EVs on the road in general, and by opening that up, that certainly allows that acceleration. With the differential there is with a Tesla, the experience is the most seamless. Obviously, our trip planner in the car is one of the best experiences that you can have for a long road trip. Put in your destination, and the car will actually tell you which locations to stop at, how long you need to stop for, and get back on the road. Also, when you pull up, you plug in. The car starts charging, it automatically deducts the money from your linked credit card and so on. There's no fumbling around with apps and that type of thing. If you're using a third-party vehicle, there's obviously a couple more steps involved because it just doesn't have that same tight integration that our vehicles have.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, maybe let's move on to battery health and range anxiety, because that's something that still comes up in fleet conversations. The market's certainly we've got state of health charge testing and everything starting to emerge and giving people confidence. But maybe what's with the new Model Y, what's changed in terms of battery tech, and what should fleet buyers know about the long-term reliability of batteries?
Look, with the Model Y, we actually, I guess with all of our products, it's a constant evolution from different parts of the vehicle. We don't really tend to wait for significant model year updates to put the best technology into our cars. So even just in the last Model Y, as it was being produced, that was our latest tech, and that has carried over into new Model Y. So it is an up-to-date cell technology already, but it was carrying over from the previous vehicle. What we have done to enhance new Model Y is really focused on aerodynamics, which helps with efficiency, gives us an increased range over the previous vehicle with that same battery tech. As far as the longevity goes, if we look to our latest impact report, we found that over 320,000 vehicles, which is the average life of a vehicle in the US, both 3 and Y lost on average 15% of their original capacity. Like I said, end-of-life vehicles typically in the US, and they've only lost that 15%, still well outside the scope of our battery warranty. So they're retaining a really high capacity there. Outside of just looking at our analysis, we do look at the Pickles report that was also published recently on battery health, and they did an analysis there of 2 vehicles with vastly different ranges and state of charges, and found that a vehicle that was 8 months old versus another 13-month-old vehicle from 4,200 kilometers to 82,000 kilometers, they actually still retain their same 97% state of health. So there is a lot of data even outside of our own that's helping support the longevity.
Yeah, I agree. That Pickles report and having more information like that's certainly going to give people a lot more confidence. Maybe like ESG targets, net zero strategies, they're a big focus for fleets. But one thing fleets care about a lot is downtime. Things about service breakdowns. If I own a Tesla or I have Teslas in my fleet, how does that work, and how do you support all that operational aspects of owning a Tesla?
Yeah, of course. Look, I guess it starts where we're listening to feedback of our customers. And we're shortly going to be launching a fleet level telemetry within our internal platform called Tesla for Business. At the start, it won't be an expansive set of data, but it will be there for fleet managers to report on. Emissions reporting will be coming along in the future. However, some of this data is even already available today via our Fleet API, which is open source and is available to any business that operates a fleet. Beyond motors, like looking more broadly at ESG, like our energy business also continues to make great strides. We're really engaging with many customers on what business operations can do through that channel and support their targets. We're also continuing to look for ways to help educate more fleet buyers on how to reduce emissions. But this really starts with an open dialogue, and we encourage people to talk with us, given that it's a key part of our mission.
Yeah, I think I put two questions in one there, so apologies. Downtime servicing, like you don't have dealerships, you don't have servicing, they don't need as much servicing as a traditional car. Sorry, so if I own Teslas, how do I look after that kind of stuff? How does that work in the network?
Yeah, good call out. Look, servicing in general, it is a personal topic for me. Recently, there's been some changes to our org structure, and I've got the after sales organization reporting directly to me. Wanting to see constant improvement here, and obviously a big part of the way our servicing works is needs-based and not focusing on scheduled servicing. So in doing so, we want to make sure that our service centres have enough capacity, enough skilled technicians to be able to accommodate things as they come up. And a big focus there is listening to our feedback of our team and trying to make sure that we actually implement change that can make it a more seamless experience for both our retail customers, our FMOs, and fleet operators. Operational uptime obviously being a huge importance here. So not only focusing on shop capacity, really wanting to reduce our key-to-key times. I'd be lying if I sat here and said we were in a perfect state. As we've grown our fleet across the market over the last 15 years, we have got almost 140,000 cars on the road now, and we're continuing to expand our locations and our footprint to be available. But there's also a lot that we continue to do internally to make sure that we're as efficient as possible and can get these cars back onto the road as quickly as we can. Big part of that has actually been a change that we've put into our parts supply. So we, over the last 18 months or so, totally brought our parts management in-house rather than relying on a third party. So we now have a parts distribution warehouse based out of Melbourne that supports both our service centres, but also our body repair centres and third-party shops and so on, really keeping those turnaround times as low as possible and then contributing again back to those lower key-to-key times. We also find that our T4B platform plays a pretty vital role for managing service visits and reducing the downtime. We really try to enable both drivers and service managers to book in via the portal and make that as seamless as possible. And a good example of that is we recently introduced a $0 auto-approved feature for items like warranty, really helping to expedite that turnaround time. Again, going back to feedback, like we certainly invite customers to continue to share feedback on the platform and our process. Something we're always trying to do is genuinely input improvements that make that a more seamless experience.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Like we talk a lot with fleet managers about, with new brands coming into the market, you need to make sure they have a strong after-sales support system, and that change you've made, definitely sounds like a step in the right direction to reduce wait times for parts and service. So well done.
Thank you.
Yeah. So really, just finally, for fleet managers or novated lease buyers sitting on the fence, what's your pitch? Why should Tesla, and particularly the new Model Y, be part of their fleet mix in 2025 and beyond?
Yeah, great question. Look, Tesla, we've been in fleet in Australia for a while, really since 2016, to be specific. We're not really new to the fleet landscape. We've got experience. We've built some great tools for fleet managers, as I was just detailing, like our Fleet API, our Tesla for Business portal, and we have really large fleet operators and FMOs already on board. We played a major role in seeking government support for the FBT exemption well before many of today's players entered the market. We actually sought a public ruling back in 2017 so we could create a level playing field for what we knew was going to be really exciting change. Beyond that, we truly believe that we engineer and manufacture the world's best EVs. That's why Model Y in general, rather, has been the world's best-selling car for the last 2 years in a row. And we expect to see that continue to success with the upgrades that we see for new Model Y, taking that to the next next level. But really for us, safety continues to be one of our pillars of success. We've always worked tirelessly to build the safest cars on the road, and this was confirmed again with that Model 3 5-star rating, which we just received, which included some comments of high esteem from the CEO of ANCAP. We know that safety is paramount for our fleet customers, and so it's why we cannot compromise on any aspect of safety for occupants, pedestrians, and of course other road users. We are also receiving strong demand for new Model Y, as it is a fit for purpose for fleets as an SUV. Many are now talking to us about refreshing their current fleet of Model Ys that they've only bought within the last few years, truly to take advantage of some of the new features that we've been detailing. We do think Model Y will be a top choice again for fleet buyers because of our expansive Supercharger network, the ease of management via Tesla for Business, and the low operating costs that contribute to a low total cost of ownership. Expecting to see, again, the ANCAP rating come out later this year for new Model Y, which should come through with the highest possible rating for every category, again, making it an absolute no-brainer for those spending a lot of time on the road.
Yeah, well, if I had to score you on hitting all the right points for fleet, I think you've got 5 stars from me too. So well done.
We'll take it. We'll take it.
Yeah. Well, that's about it for my questions. I really appreciate you making the time. As I mentioned in the intro, it's very. I think it's quite special. We haven't had a lot of commentary from Tesla in the past, and it's really great. As you said, you've been around for a long time. You're not new to fleet, so it's great that you've made the time. So I certainly appreciate it.
Thank you. It's something we are very conscious of and wanting to make sure that we remind the market of that heritage and that we're here and committed to the market.
Yeah, fantastic. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Fleet News Group podcast, and a big thank you to Thom Drew from Tesla for making the time to chat with us. If you've enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to check out our websites, Fleet Auto News, Fleet HV News, and of course, Fleet EV News, for the latest updates and reviews and insights for fleet buyers and managers. And grab a copy of our magazine, All Things Fleet. It's available in Qantas Club lounges around the country, so if you're travelling for business and pleasure, or you'll be able to pick it up at most of the industry events throughout the year. We cover all the trends and technologies in fleet management. We bring everything about Fleet News Group together in one magazine. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. And until then, drive safe and keep making smart fleet decisions.